This drill that Tiger Woods and his coach Butch Harmon devised in the early 2000s when Tiger was in his prime absolutely changed my life, because this drill was what made me turn pro. And this drill was by far the hardest drill I have ever done in my life, but it was the most rewarding, as you can imagine from the results. As it gained me a ton of distance, it tightened up my dispersion and just smoothed out my rhythm so much. So without me saying any more, let's let Tiger and Butch explain exactly what this drill is.
I absolutely could not stand, and I still can't stand.
Let's see it then.
Is take the club up to the top and stop, and then come down and hit the shot. And this is a drill that he made me do for hours upon hours, and we're out there sweating. It's 100 degrees out there.
You were sweating.
we were both working pretty hard, but the thing is, it's just something I needed to do to feel where he wanted me to put it. And then from there, let the arms fall down in front of you.
The whole key was to get the club in a position at the top where he just felt as he transferred his weight, his arms would fall down in front of him. Now, to get that feeling, and this is good for the average golfer who's watching, here's a guy who's the best player in the world, who hits more balls than anybody on the planet, and it's taken him over a year to feel comfortable with that,
True. Hitting
thousands of balls, where the recreational golfer takes one lesson for 30 minutes from their local PGA pro, and they just figure they've got it. They've got it made by doing that. And so it just tells you how hard you have to work at this game. This man works harder than anyone I've ever seen. Greg Norman, when I worked with him, was the hardest worker I'd ever seen until Tiger came along, and he works harder than even Greg did. And to be good at any level, you have to put in the time and you have to work. As he said, he hated that drill. When we used to do that drill, he goes, "Oh no, you're not going to make me do that again." I said, "Yes, we haven't got it. You're going to do it until you..."
So the pause at the top drill. So yes, that famous segment from Tiger and Butch on the Golf Channel. Now that was as Tiger was in his prime. So Tiger was doing the drill where he's getting up to the top, pausing for a couple seconds, and that was letting his arms get a little bit more in front of him. Tiger had the tendency at the time of getting the arms stuck behind. Brilliant one for him, sequencing out his downswing. And the results for Tiger are extremely obvious, as we know. But for myself, I used to have a very blurred transition. My arms would go incredibly fast in transition, where my body would have no time to catch up. My rotation was terrible as a result, because I had no time to turn. So when I did this with my old coach, we did it purely for getting myself to quieten down my arms. So Tiger was doing it to speed up his arms, and I was doing it to quieten it. So it's the same drill, but you can have a different intent, which is why this is brilliant for everyone. So I was getting out to the top, pausing, and then swinging through and hitting the golf ball there. Now, if I was to hit the ball like that, back in that lesson, I would have been amazed, because I couldn't hit the ball at all when I did this. And for context, I was roughly around a 4 handicap at the time I did this drill years ago. It's over a decade ago, this drill was done for me. Now, I would top the ball, I would miss it. I did everything other than hit a good shot in that lesson when I did it. But then I continued to do it, because why was it that hard? Because it targeted my weak area of my transition. So I continued to do it, getting up to the top, pausing and swinging through, and that massively helped with timing, getting that body to turn more. And once I could start to strike that ball better, I immediately saw distance gains. I was known at the time at the golf club for being the good player who could not hit the ball out of his shadow. I used to hit the ball so unbelievably short because I was so out of sequence. And with driver, I immediately gained probably roughly around 25 yards just from that. Just one day it was there once I did enough of that drill. So pausing at the top, swinging down and through. And like Butch Harmon said in that.
And this is good for the average golfer who's watching. Here's a guy who's the best player in the world, who hits more balls than anybody on the planet, and it's taken him over a year to feel comfortable with that.
True.
Hitting thousands of balls, where the recreational golfer takes one lesson for 30 minutes from their local PGA pro, and they just figure they've got it. They've got it made by doing that. And so it just tells you how hard you have to work at this game. This man works harder than anyone I've ever seen. Greg Norman, when I worked with him, was the hardest worker I'd ever seen until Tiger came along, and he works harder than even Greg did. And to be good at any level, you have to put in the time and you have to work. As he said, he hated that drill. When we used to do that drill, he goes, "Oh no, you're not going to make me do that again." I said, "Yes, we haven't got it. You're going to do it until you..."
Absolutely the same experience. I did not like this drill at all, because I was embarrassing myself at the driving range every time I went to hit balls. But after the months and months of work on it, it got that sequencing ironed out. really, really nicely. So the little progression that we went through for it was making sure that when I started to do it, I was more trying to pause for around a second. So just a second, and it didn't look like a second at all. So for you guys who are really rushing from the top, this will be great. So get up to the top, pause for what you feel like is a second, and then swing through. For me, that just looks like this initially. To where, again, there was no discernible top to start of the downswing. So that's where it does take a ton of time, and rushing is such a thing that is so commonly done with golfers that this is going to be really beneficial. Once you can really get yourself pausing and stopping for a bit, then you can stop and pause for as long as you like. What my old coach did when he was demonstrating and talking through this process, he got up to the top of his swing, which I'm not going to attempt this because I won't be able to do it. He got to the top of his swing, looked at the ball, looked at me, paused there for 5 minutes just staring at me, 5 seconds, sorry, not minutes, that would be impressive. And then he just swung through while still looking at me and pured it. And what he said, because I find this drill really easy, he said, you should be able to find this really easy as well. The reason why you're not is because you struggle massively with that area. It is your weak point. So rather than thinking this drill is too tough for me, it's not right for me because I can't hit the ball well with it, it's more, this is the weak point. That's why you're hitting it badly, double down on it. And like I said, I had the months of hitting the ball poorly, and then it got into my golf swing. So then, like now, I can pause there for a good amount of time and then swing through and hit a good golf shot. Would have never have been able to do that. And like I said, Tiger was using this for a completely different reason to myself, which is where a pause at the top or freezer drill, you can do the same no matter what you're working on. If you're working on something where it's either transition, this will be great for you to do because you could then really focus on, right, little pause, and then really consciously get that start how you want to. Let's say for most players, getting their left hip going back to initiate that downswing of the hips. Awesome. Let's say if it's a player, again, who's working on their tempo, stopping at the top and then going from there. If it's a player who wants to get a bigger turn in the backswing, they could then get a really nice big coil up, pause, force themselves into that position and go. Let's say it was a player who was trying to get in the top of the backswing at a better spot. Maybe they're a big across the line short swing player. They want to get more laid off to make it function. They could get into that position, check that they're there, pause, and then swing through. You could work on pretty much anything, which is why it's an optimal way to work on your golf swing. Even weight shift, get there, turn, more rotation, get up to the top, turn through. I could go on and on and on. This is why I find your reason for doing it. It's extremely hard, but you will absolutely see massive gains, just like I did, incredibly life-changing gains. So again, if it worked for the best player of all time, at the time where he was at the peak of his career, it's going to work for all of you out there as well. So if you enjoyed this video, click that like button. If you want more golf instruction, just like this, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video.